This is how I would rank a personal injury attorney in 2026. So the first thing you have to consider is what are people actually searching for when they're looking for your service? What are they typing into Google to find your services? Now, what's common is that us as the practitioners or as the technicians, however you want to describe it or look at it, the people that know the actual terms or the actual words used to describe the services that you offer aren't always what people search in Google. What you have to consider is that everybody has a different interpretation of what your service is called. So before you start the process of doing your on page optimization, what you want to consider is a majority of the time, what are people putting in that search bar when they're looking for your specific service? What you'll find a lot of the times is what you think the service is being searched for is not actually what they are searching for you when they're looking for your service. A good way to get like an idea, a better idea of what they're actually typing into Google to find your website or to find your Google business profile is if you already have a Google business profile, go to your performance, click your performance, scroll down a little bit, and on the right side, what you'll see are impressions for your what you'll see is impressions for when your Google business profile shows up in search and for what search term or what keyword people are placing. The next thing you can do is if you have your Google Search Console set up, you can go in there and then you can see, okay, what is my website getting impressions for currently? Now, there's one caveat with this is that just because you're getting a high amount of impressions does not mean that is the keyword you want to target, right? What you want to consider is you may have some blog content, some how to guides, what have you, that are getting a lot of impression data. So we want to be aware of the actual term being searched and our website appearing for, right? We don't want to just blindly follow the impression data. You may end up going to optimize for a search term or a keyword that is not actually going to transfer to traffic that you want. You're not going to be able to convert them because they're not looking for your services, they're looking for something else. There are two other really good tools to consider. When you go to your Google Ad Center, you're going to go to keywords and then you're going to go to keyword planning tool. You're going to type in the service or the keyword you're considering targeting. Google is going to recommend you other terms. Once you type that in and hit get results, below what you'll see are very similar keywords or terms for that keyword or term that you put into the top. Then also on the other columns, what you'll see is the average search volume those terms will get. And from there, you can also see the top range and the bottom range that people are paying per click for those terms. So we can now use that information to give us more confidence in the keyword we're trying to target. What we're doing is every single time we're looking at these different tools, we're looking at the amount of search traffic they're getting, we're building a picture. A way to consider this is that every single time we get more information, we're getting a better idea, we're building more confidence of what we need to be targeting for our pages. Then we can go to Google Trends, and on Google Trends, what we can do is very similar to the keyword ad planner. We're going to place the keyword that we're considering. We're going to look at the chart or we're going to look at the graph at the bottom and we can see that what Google Trends does is that it will show you relative to its previous search volume, what its current search volume is, and what it is historically relative to itself. So it goes from 0 to 100, but it's going to show you comparatively to its historic search volume, right? So you have to think about, let's say you take the entire year. its entire search volume. Then you break it down historically. So you go month by month. Let's say month one gets 2000. The first month gets 2000. The second month gets 3,000. The fourth month get 6,000. And then it drops back down to 2,000 for the rest of the year. So in Google Trends, what you'll see is the then at that third month, you'll see it hit 100. And then for the rest of the months, it'll go back to that 20 to 30 on the graph. So it's just showing you relative to its own search volume where it has peaks or highs or lows. So a common thing with Christmas light installation companies is that you'll see these peaks around Christmas time. So it'll help you understand the seasonality of that search term. Again, it is not telling you the search volume that keyword gets. When you scroll a bit further down below the fold, what you'll see are these suggested queries on the left side, and then you also see frequently asked questions on the right side. And what we can do is we can use those, the left side, the similar queries, to help us get a better understanding of keywords or terms we want to be targeting. On the right side, what we can do is we can use that to help us get an understanding of, okay, what blog content or what frequently asked questions do we want to have on the site? What supplemental content do we want to consider building? Another source to get an idea of the keywords we want to be targeting is listen to the phone calls you get. When somebody calls in for your service, hey, do you provide X? To the words that they're using. How are they speaking about your service? Not everybody is going to think the same way about what the service is called. But what we can do is, as we get more and more paint strokes or paintbrush strokes, right? We're getting more confidence in the keyword we need to be considering targeting. Another thing is that if they go, oh, I searched X in Google, I called five of them, only blah, blah, blah picked up, then that's another term. That's another consideration. Another way is what we can do. We can go to like a couple hundred Google business profiles and we can look at the review content. The review content is what the person is leaving, what they write in the review. From that review content, we can get another layer or another paintbrush of how people are thinking or considering what the service is called. Not only that, but because we've crawled that, what I like to do is I will go through all of the negative reviews, all the 1 star, 2 star, the 3 stars. I'll go through and I'll collect the 1 star, the 2 star, the 3 star, and the 4 star reviews. And from that, I know what I need to address in my copy on the page because I'm directly telling the person on my page their common questions, their common pain points are going to be taken care of. Another source is the Google autofill. When you're searching in Google, as you type, it's naturally going to autofill or it's going to guess at the term you're trying to search for. This is because Google has a whole bunch of search data, right? A search history from other users and how they type and what they search for. So Google knows or is trying to guess at the search term you're looking for. And from this, we can get an understanding of what we want to be targeting for our keyword. The other thing is that after it autofills for you or auto types it or auto suggests, what you can do is hit enter, see the search results page. As we look through the search results page, we can look at all of the bolded terms on the page. These terms are what Google thinks is relevant to our search term. So from this data, we can get a way better understanding of, hey, like Google thinks that these terms are relevant for a reason. So these are not only the keywords you need to be considering targeting, these are also what keywords we need to be placing on our page. Something else to be aware of is when you're targeting these keywords, when you're looking at your Google AdWord planner, when you're looking at the Google Trends, be aware of there's going to be times where certain brand names are going to have a high search volume and it's not going to be as obvious because sometimes these brands have like keywords in their name. So be careful just blindly trusting this keyword data. I would first go search it in Google, see what pops up. And if you start seeing brand names pop up or you see a very specific brand pop up, like almost an exact match domain, I would not target that keyword, even though it does have a super high search volume because it's not an actual keyword people are looking for your service. What's happening is that people are just searching it because they know the brand name and they're looking for that specific brand. You, as a personal injury attorney, are going to want to target local terms. You're going to want to target near me's. You're not going to want to target international, or you're not going to want to target international terms because we're trying to provide our service locally. For the Google business profile of a personal injury attorney, what you want to make sure is that you have a keyword in your name. Rather, you have the base like an attorney or lawyer. If you could get personal injury in there as well, you want a keyword in your Google business profile name. It helps your Google business profile rank. So anything outside of a 10-mile radius is going to fall below position 20. So for us, what we consider that is you're not actually visible. So what you need to consider is that inside of that 10-mile radius, where are you going to rank based on the amount of reviews you have? And what we found was is that if you have anywhere from 1 to 9, you get about a mile and a half radius. At 10 to 50 reviews, you get a like a 5-mile radius. Now, I'm not saying you're guaranteed to rank in the first 3 positions, but what this means is that as you get more reviews, your profile can rank further and further from the location. So 1 through 9, you get that half a mile radius. 10 to 50, you get that 5-mile radius. And then after you go from 50, so now for the Google business profile for a personal injury attorney, what you need to consider is that each profile has a radius of around 9 miles. And what I mean by that is we just did a study where we looked at 10 big metros and over 3,700 Google business profiles. Around the 9-mile radius to 10-mile radius mark, your profile is going to drop out. And when I say drop out, that means it's going to be below the 20th position in a majority of the time. So what you need to do is you need to get a second Google business profile. That second profile and the first profile, those radiuses, those need to overlap slightly. Now, why we want to do this is there are instances in which someone in between those two profiles, when they search for your term, your keyword, you can take up 2 of the top 3 listings on in search on Google Maps. When you do that, first off, when you just take the first position, the 3-pack, when you take that first position with your Google business profile, you get anywhere from 30 to 40% of the clicks. Take up those top 2 and you get 60%. So not only that, what can happen is because you have these 2 profiles, you can rank in these 2 areas. You basically have these 2 giant billboards anytime someone is searching in Google for your service. Now, if you want to rank for near me terms, so what do I mean by that is you take the service and then you add near me. So personal injury attorney near me, you have to show the address on your Google business profile. Your physical address has to be seen by customers. So when you go on that profile and you hit edit and then you go to address, you have to show it. If you do not, it is nearly impossible or extremely difficult to rank for near me terms. Not only that, being a service area based profile makes it difficult to rank for any term. Businesses or Google Business profiles that have their verified address shown are way more likely to rank for any term, including near me. The primary category you set on your Google Business profile is the number one factor you need to be considering. It needs to accurately match the keyword you're trying to target. If you're a personal injury lawyer, you need to put personal injury lawyer. You don't need any of these other terms or primary categories in that slot for your business. Another thing you want to consider is putting a keyword in your Google Business profile name. That is going to be the second most important thing you do that's going to help you rank. The next thing you need to do is get reviews of your actual team, of you in the office on your profile. Having photos of your team is a ranking factor. The total amount of photos on your Google Business profile is a ranking factor. So get pictures of your building, get pictures inside your building, your workspace, and of your team. Any client success stories, you need to make sure that your hours are accurate. Do not put 24 hours if you are not 24 hours. What will happen is Google will call your business at those hours to verify that you are actually open. If you're not, Google will suspend your profile. Next, you need to make sure that you have at least 15 services on your Google Business profile. What you want to do is you want to go through and for your top level keyword, you want to have keyword variations of that term, right? So, personal injury attorney, personal injury lawyer. You want to go through and have at least 15 different variations of the keywords you're trying to target. So, like car accident, 18-wheeler accident, wrongful deaths, rideshare accidents. You've got slip and fall as well. And you want to make sure that each of those services have a 2 to 3 line description for each. Another thing you want to do is on your website at the bottom in the footer, you want to embed your Google Business profile. What that means is so search for your business, go to Maps, find your Google Business profile, hit share, then a share window will pop up. On the right side, it's going to say embed map. You're going to want to click that. You're going to want to copy the code, and then that's the code you're going to place in your website, in your footer. If you currently have this set up, I would go and double check right now. I have done so many audits recently, and it's one of the first things I'll go and check and I'll click. And 9 times out of 10, it's not linking to the business's Google Business profile. So, real quick, go and check yours. Another thing is when you go to do press releases, you're going to want that code to embed on those press releases. So whenever that goes and gets syndicated or distributed, all of those backlinks that are pointing not only to your website, they are going to be pointing to your Google Business profile. Not only do you want that embed, but what you want to do is you want to search your business. You're going to go to Maps, you're going to click your business, and in the URL, what you want to make sure is the link that you're using in your press releases are the link that is from that Google Maps URL. What it's going to be Google Maps. Then it's going to be / places, or it's going to be / something. And then it's going to be your name of the business. And in between each word, it's going to have a plus sign. That's the URL you want to use to link to your Google Business profile and embedding that HTML. So I recently got asked a really good question about rank tracking. This person was asking, so if I'm a business owner and I'm wanting to figure out like where am I ranking? Like how does that work? What does that look like? What's best practices? So what I want to touch on with this is that these ranking trackers are to be taken with a grain of salt. They are not all accurate and you should not be looking at them like the source of truth. They're when we are looking at this information or this data from these trackers, what you have to consider is that Google will cache results. So that tracker may ping an API or may go and search in Google, right? And it may be getting a cached result. What does that mean? So when something is searched for, what Google can do is that they can place that data or that information on they can place that information or that data into a cached result. So then if you searched again for they could literally just feed you the same results. Not only does this happen for rank trackers, this can also happen for when you search. When you search for your business, so let's say you searched and then an hour later you searched again, what can happen is that Google is just going to feed you that cached result. Not only that, what you have to consider is that these ranking trackers are typically looking at these results on accounts that are rather not logged in, or it's just a simple API call. These are all going to have different results, and these are all not going to be representative of what's actually occurring in search, right? But I want to say though, what is going to happen here is you're going to get a better understanding of where you sit, but you do not want it's just not 100%. That's all I want to say is that it's not 100% guaranteed that these are all accurate. But what we can do is because we are aware of this, we can go through to all these different providers. We can ourselves search. We can also personally, I have internal tools that I use that does this. And we can get a better idea of where we sit by using all these different data feeds and getting a better representation of what's occurring. The other thing you want to consider is that you don't want to just search once. What I will do with my internal tools is we're going to search 5 times, but in between each search, we're going to have a minute delay. This is then going to give me all of those results, right? That let's say the top 10. Then what I can do is I can average the results out to get a better understanding of where everything sits. What you don't want to do is go to one provider and search once. Another thing to consider is that there's incognito, there's logged in, and then there's logged out. When you're logged in, you have history with Google. Google has your search history, your search preferences, so it knows a better understanding of what to give you and what you're more likely to click on. The logged out, they don't have that session data, right? Now these help, right? These help give you a better illustration of what's occurring. If you did one logged out, you did one in incognito, and then you did one logged into your profile. But what you need to be aware of is that not only for the logged in profile, it has that search history of yours, but because you've interacted so much with your profile already, your business profile, it's naturally going to serve that one to you higher up. So it's not going to be a clear illustration of what's occurring. So that's rank trackers. Just try to be aware of having multiple data sources and then also doing multiple searches when you're actually trying to figure out where you're ranking. I like to do 5, you can do 10. I feel like 5 is a good number to give an accurate representation of where you sit. So another thing you want to do on your personal injury attorney website is you want to have these hubs on your pages. So when I say hubs, what do I mean? On the header navigation, right? You want to have, as an example, a blog hub. When someone clicks on that blog hub, what they're taken to is a page that has URLs or links to all your blogs. Why we want to do this is because this helps us achieve a full crawl depth. So, what you want to think of is Google comes to the homepage, Google finds the header navigation, it finds the URLs in there. From that, it will then go and crawl those individually, right? So we have the homepage being crawled, then it finds the header navigation, URLs, goes to blog. Blog page has another list of all these URLs. Instead of what you don't want to happen is homepage. Google comes to the homepage, crawls the homepage, finds the URL, right? Oh, goes to blog. You have goes and crawls this page. This page links to another blog, right? This blog links to another blog. Google will crawl the homepage. It will place those URLs in a queue. Let's say 2 days. 2 days later, Google will come by and crawl those URLs it found. Another 2 days later, Google will come by and crawl those URLs it found. And because you have this daisy chain of blogs, right? We had blog links to blog, blog links to blog, blog links to blog. Each additional hop, as an example, will take 2 to 3 days. Because you're not linking to it, you're not showing that it's important. Google's not going to want to come and crawl something that takes 6 hops to get to. You're showing Google, oh, this page isn't important. So what you want to do is you want on your blog page to have links to all of your blogs. You got to make sure though that when you do pagination, that it does not create a new URL string. So what I mean by that is at the bottom, let's say you had like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, right? You've got 6 pages of blogs. When that button is clicked, you do not want to be taken to a new URL. What can happen is that there are some of these CMS platforms that will do a query string like question mark page, or they'll go blog question mark equals page 2 as an example, right? So if I have 6 of those, I have 5 URL strings that are going to be thin content. Not only that, that's going to inflate my website with URLs that aren't actually pages. They're just a page with a whole bunch of links on them. So you don't want to do that. What you want to do is you want to make sure when you're clicking on that pagination, we're not taken to a new URL. Now, there are different ways to do this. So, not only do we want to do that for our blog page, but let's say that we serve multiple areas. Let's say that we have multiple services. We also want to have a services page that then will link to all of our individual services. Our locations page is again, we're going to go to locations, and then on that locations page, it's going to link to all of our locations. Homepage to these 3 pages. So we've got our blog, locations, and services. Then from there, let's say each of these have 6 links on their own. That's 8. So from the homepage, boom, homepage, these hubs, boom, access to 18 links. That's how you make it easy for Google to get a full crawl depth of your website. Another thing you want to do is in your sitemap, you want to make sure that you have all of your URLs listed as well. This is another way of helping getting full crawl depth. Not only do you want to do your XML, but I personally like to also create my own HTML version. Another thing you want to be aware of is your URL structure. So when you're going to pick your domain, or if you already have a domain, specifically for personal injury lawyers, you're going to want a .com. .com is a ranking factor. It is going to be extremely difficult and not worth your time to rank anything other than a .com. You don't want to do any other top level domain other than a .com. If you currently don't have a .com, you can leave that website up, but I would get a brand new domain that is a .com, and in that, you're going to want their keyword. So very similar to your Google Business Profile, you're probably going to want to do your law firm's name and then rather a keyword or 2 keywords or the whole search term you're trying to rank for. So let's do Chris's personal injury, or Chris's personal injury firm, Chris's personal injury office, Chris personal injury lawyer as examples. Another thing you want to consider is that you want your domain to resolve to one URL. What do I mean when I say you want it to resolve to one URL? So what can happen is you'll have a www version of your URL, or you will have a non-www version of your URL. What you want is to pick one and you want to stick with it the entire way. So if you don't, what can happen is Google will crawl the www version. Google will crawl the non-www version, as an example, www.yourdomain.com or domain.com. If you're not 301 redirecting, if you don't have your proper server config file set up, what's going to happen is that Google's going to hit both. It's going to see your www, it's going to see your non www, and it's going to think that there's two duplicate versions of your website. It's going to think that there's two duplicate versions of your site. Not only can that happen, but what also can happen is that if you don't have proper HTTP or HTTPS set up and you're redirecting that, or you don't have your SSL certificate, so you got www, non www, and you got HTTPS. So different combinations of these, what's going to happen is that you have now four different versions of your site because you did not set up the proper URL structure or the 301 redirecting or the server config files, what have you. You now have four absolutely identical versions of your site. Another thing you want to consider is that any external links pointing to your site, so let's say you go and set up your social profiles, you got LinkedIn, you got Twitter, you've got YouTube. Those links that you place on those social profiles pointing back to your website can actually hurt you if it's not matching the URL structure that you selected. So, a clear illustration, you have a HTTPS www.yourdomain.com. That's the URL structure you selected. But on all your social profiles, you have the non www version. You just have HTTPS yourdomain.com. That is basically telling Google every time it goes and crawls those profiles, oh, there's this other version. It pings it, then gets a 301 redirect. That just doesn't make sense. Or if you don't have it set up, then Google's going to go find that other version and think that there's a duplicate version of your website. So we want to make sure is that on all of your social profiles, on all backlinks that you get, it has to be the domain URL that you've selected. The other thing you want to do is with your blog structures, that blog hub we were talking about, and your services hub and your locations hub, we want to also have these interlinking to each other. So not only is it the 3-click hop from the homepage to find these URLs, but what also happens is as Google hits these URLs, those links to those other pages are also going to help it achieve a full crawl depth. Then what we want to do is, especially with blog content, is we want to have the blog content link to our money page, our page we're trying to rate. So let's say that we're doing personal injury in Miami, right? Or a personal injury lawyer in Miami. On the blog content, we're going to have anchor text that says that keyword, personal injury in Miami. So we have the blog content, we have that link to our money page. This is going to funnel all of those links to our money page. We are clearly and distinctly showing Google we want to rank this page. Not only that, but now we have all of this relevance. An example. So let's say we made a things to do in Miami blog. We have a list of 10 different things that people can go do in Miami. This adds relevance. This adds geographic relevance. This is going to help that page rank in Google in that area. It's going to help it rank locally. And because we have all of these external links pointing to that page with geographic relevance, not only that, but also we have some law blogs. Having all of that blog content and all of these other pages internally on the site, all linking to that page, our money page, that is going to help that page rank higher in Google. Now, there does come a point when that effect starts to wear off. And then at that point, what you need to do is you need to start building links, rather tier twos, tier threes, or tier ones, or just sending a direct press release to that money page to help it rank. So when it comes to doing on-page optimization for a personal injury attorney, what you want to consider is when you're searching for the term you're trying to rank for, Google is going to bold certain words that it thinks are relevant to the search query. Those are the terms you want to be using on your page to help it rank. Google's not bolding those for no reason. The other thing that you want to consider is when we're doing the on page optimization, it does not have to be this skyscraper article. What you can do is we can place all of the on page optimization below the fold. Now, so when I say below the fold, what do I mean? So when you first visit a page, really anything below like half a scroll is what would be considered below the fold. When you have these skyscraper articles, what happens is that you've got like 6 or 7 or 8 page scrolls to actually get to the bottom or like the footer. So what you want to do is you rather want to use accordions is something you click and then it'll expand and there's more content behind it. So a good illustration of this is if you have a about section or a team section, what you can do is behind each of your people on your team, you can have it to when it's clicked, it flips, and all of a sudden there's this hidden giant wall of text. And that is a zone that we can get our SEO on page optimization in. Not only that, what you can do is you can have a review wall. So, what do I mean by a review wall? So, a common thing what you'll see across all of these pages, not only the pages that I make, but across your competitors, things you'll just see across the internet is that people will have these testimonial sections, right? These testimonial sections will usually be like a carousel. So, like every second, what have you, it will rotate, new carousel, new testimonial. There's a name, it's in quotes, there's a dash, etc. What I like to do is I will go and I will pull review data off of your Google business profile. I will then turn that into what I would consider a review wall. So in this review wall, I will pull the image of the person that left the review. So it's not just a blank image, right? We can actually get an understanding of, oh, this is an actual person's review. I'll put their name, we'll put the day the review was left, and then we'll also put the review content, right? In this review content, we can bold certain terms, which will help us rank the page. Not only that, we can get those LSI terms or those entities on page because those are the terms or those are the things that are going to commonly occur when people talk about your service or their experience with your service. And in this review wall, what I'll do is we'll have a section so they would have to go to the section to scroll it. It's not a skyscraper article where you're constantly scrolling to get through the reviews. They would have to actually scroll inside of this section to scroll down all your reviews. So 80% of it's going to be hidden, but that 80% that's hidden is our SEO. The entities, the LSI terms, the bolded terms, what have you, that is what's preventing your site from ranking. What we can do is we can optimize it in those sections to help you rank. This is also great is if they have photos, because then we can also put keywords in the file name of the photo. We can add keywords in the alt text of the photo to increase our rankings or increase our on page to help that page rank in search. So we have not only that, then we also have FAQ. So with frequently asked questions, what we can do is very similar. We can have these accordions that will place the answers to the questions, right? But then also we can get a little verbose in them. What do I mean by that is that instead of it just being like a one line answer, we can get 3 sentences, we can get a paragraph, we can get 2 paragraphs in there if we want. 99% of the time, nobody's reading it. Nobody goes to your accordion to read it. No one clicks on it, right? So by having it in these accordions and not having a skyscraper article, what we're achieving is we're giving the overwhelming majority of consumers of your content, your services, we're not taking away their experience, right? We're not feeding them this skyscraper article. What we're doing is we're having these, or which what are going to be short pages, but in reality is that if you were to expand all of the content and place it on a normal page, it would actually probably be 8 to 9 scrolls. But because we have this optimization or structure of our pages, what we do is we don't remove the experience of our users. We place all of the on page optimization in a way that our end consumer or end customer client isn't going to have a terrible experience on our page because we're trying to optimize for SEO. No, instead, what we're going to do is it's going to be a 2 to 3 page scroll, and we're going to get all of our on page optimization in that way by having it behind our team page, right? When they go to click each team member, what's going to happen is that there's going to be that wall of text that's scrollable that is not just going to be keyword stuff. It's actually going to be descriptive of that individual team member. How long have they been doing this? Where did they graduate? What is their specific role that they specialize in? What do they know about? Right? Not only that, then we can also go through there again and bold those terms to help us rank the page. So when it comes to getting entities, these LSI terms on page, what you have to consider is that all of these terms, like LSI terms or entities, really what you want to do is these are just terms that commonly occur when you're talking to, think of it when you're talking to your team members, right? There are going to be certain words that you use frequently that also commonly co occur with each other to other similar words when you're having a conversation about your service. Those are the terms you want to use on your page. That's all those are. They're like entities and LSI terms. It's just the common words that would occur when we're speaking about the service to other lawyers or other attorneys or our team members, to prospects, to potential clients, current clients. Those words that you use to describe the service or to have just normal conversations about it are what pretty much entities and LSI terms are. So, site speed for a personal injury attorney, it a lot of people will say that it's a ranking factor. What I've experienced is that it's not, but what it is, it's a conversion factor. What you have to consider is the person that is not at home on Wi-Fi, right? So what you have to consider is the person that just got rear-ended or just got in a car accident. They're on a 3G network and they are searching for your service. When they click your website URL and you have this ginormous video on the page that's not lazy loaded, that's not compressed, and is going to be the first thing that their 3G network tries to load, it's gonna take a minute or 2, and they're just gonna click off, and they're gonna go to somebody else's page. So, when you think about site speed, that's the person you need to think about. It's the person that is not on a Wi-Fi network, they don't have 4G, they're on a 3G network on their phone, right? You have to think a majority of the time, when these people are searching for your services, they're not at home. They're normally out and about on their phones on 3G networks. So, what you wanna make sure is that your site is properly optimized to serve that customer. What you also need to consider is that Google is aware of how large your site is. So it is going to serve the lighter sites in the search results page when someone is searching for that service and they're on a 3G network or what have you. So why you want to create blog content on your personal injury attorney website is to create authority and relevance. Relevance around your term that you're trying to rank for, and authority to show Google we are a subject matter expert. Look at all this content, all this blog content that we have around being a lawyer. Not only that, on each of your blogs, you want to have an author card and you want to attribute that blog to a specific person on your team. So if you have a 6 member team, you want to have a whole bunch of blog content going to those individual team members with author cards. showing their expertise and that your firm has a list of authoritative and expert lawyers or attorneys for the specific term you're trying to rank for. In this case, it's personal injury. The other thing you want to do with your blog content is you want to silo it out so that it all links to the money page that you're trying to rank for. All of that relevance, rather, just in the service or the term that you're trying to rank for. But not only that, you can also use it for geographic relevance to help push you when you're trying to rank for that in city term, like personal injury in Miami. On that blog, when you're linking to your money page, that anchor text you want to be using is to match that keyword you're trying to rank for. So, personal injury in Miami would be the anchor text I would use to link to my money page that is trying to rank for personal injury attorney in Miami. So now, when it comes to backlinks for a personal injury attorney, there's a lot you need to consider. What you first need to consider is the total amount of backlinks you have. What's a backlink? Anything that is external from your site that links to your website is a backlink. What are referring domains? Referring domains are the different domains that link to your website. So one referring domain can have 10 backlinks to your site, right? So let's just think about this. Your website is yourdomain.com. Okay. Yourdomain.com. This is abcnews.com. News.com can have a page that has 10 links to yourdomain.com. That's 10 backlinks. So 10 backlinks from ABC News, which is one referring domain. When you're thinking about backlinks and referring domains, what you want to be aware of or what you want to focus on is referring domains. Referring domains is your number one priority. Now, typically with service based businesses, 9 times out of 10, one press release, so anywhere from 300 to around 500 backlinks with around like 300 referring domains would be enough to rank for their service. Like if you think about a roofer near me, right? Now, when it comes to personal injury attorneys, it's going to take a lot more than one press release. It's going to probably be dependent on the market. You're looking at maybe like 2,000 referring domains or more. You're going to need more than a typical press release package because you are in such a high competitive keyword or you are in such a high competitive network or environment. Now, when it comes to referring domains and backlinks, there's also relevance. It's not only relevance of what the domain is majority about. So, as an example, the ABC News, majority of what they talk about is news, right? That's their relevance. Then the page that you are on that links to your site is also relevance, right? So that link is not going to be as relevant if you had a link from a lawyer directory or a news organization that only does news about law. Those are going to have two totally different weights. Now, they will both still help you rank, but one is going to help you way more than the other thing you want to consider is the anchor text. Whenever you click a link on a page, normally that thing that's underlined or blue, that thing, that text that is showing is the anchor text. So that anchor text is also going to have an impact on helping your site rank. So ideally, the first press release that you do is all branded anchor text. Then after that is when you want to start mixing in the keywords that you want to rank for, like personal injury or personal injury attorney, right? Another thing that backlinks can help you do is to cancel out what is called keyword cannibalization. Keyword cannibalization occurs when you have two pages that are very similar and Google doesn't know which one to rank for the keyword. So someone searches for personal injury attorney near me. What happens is, let's say that's searched 10 times. Personal injury attorney near me is searched 10 times. Of those 10 times, you have 5 times this page shows up and 5 times this other page shows up. Because this is occurring, Google doesn't have a clear distinction of which page should be ranking for this term because that's occurring, right? What's going to happen is that it's going to tank your rankings in search for each page. It's going to be very difficult to rank either page. What also impacts this is the competition level. So if you are in a super competitive environment, what can happen is that these pages are even tanked worse. If it's a low competition area, you might get away with it. You might be able to rank one, and then the other one may be sitting somewhere on like page three. But majority of the time, because you have these keyword cannibalization issues going on, Google can't distinct which one should rank. And so what backlinks can help you do is pointing backlinks with the anchor text for the keyword that page is supposed to be ranking for can help discern with Google, help tell Google which page we want to be ranking for that keyword.